This week we have Martin join us again, and it's another esoteric conversation. We didn't even really try to keep this one on track. These wandering conversations, they allow us to explore different topics such as truth and surrender and victimhood and creation and awakening, enlightenment, even though I don't like those terms. Always love sitting down with Martin. Always have. I mean, I don't know what number podcast it is. However, we've got to find some time to do more. Martin is a healing practitioner, and I'll put his links in the show notes. I've worked with Martin for many years now. Anyone that's in southeast Queensland and wants a different approach, give him a call. All right. Look, that's about it for me. Remember, we're on Patreon. Unlocking the Code. You want to swing a few dollars our way? That'd be awesome. I know everything's crazy, so if you don't have it, don't worry. We'll keep moving forward. Instagram, Facebook, Unlocking the Code. You know the drill. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a review. I think we're going to go with, look, I'm loving Detoxify. I don't know why that song, every time I go to release a show, that's the one that pops into my head. So thanks again to Loomis. Can't wait to talk to him again. That's enough out of me. Enjoy this one. Look after yourselves. Be kind, be cool. And we'll talk soon. Cheers.
There's a poison in destruction. People suffer, people suffocate. We're suffocated daily, making our own bubble. Subtle is the cuddle of the snake that squeezes. Hate to see this matrix seizes. Maybe we just need to pull the plug. Drain the system, poison out our body. You've been probably overdosing most of your life and never noticed. Overloaded, rub the cups and comatose. No one's open, no emotion, no engulfed in this dimension here. We work all day and it's always a thinking crystal clear. Everything we do revolves around the dollar count. It's all around us, all around. We're falling down and knocks you out. Get off the couch, it's all think out. The toxic flame will cost you cancer, jobs and houses all around. Got your spouses, got your house, you call the council. Got no answers, evolving out in small amounts. It's all we have, it's all planned out for our defeat. Water down the modern man and bottle up. So we have no intuition of a vision that it's all corrupt. I know we read our vision, if we always been forgotten. We're sick of forgotten, living in boxes. Now let's go find all of those outreaches, forgotten the beaches to walk on the treetops to waterfall pieces of part of us. Go find out what's been making you take, but didn't face it with criticism. Awaken your inner visions, slow back down. You better leave your belongings. You'll start receiving your callings and be unleashing from bondages. Draining it out, every day is about a way to get out. Find a solution, life illusion, portrayed every day in our face. We do what they say, they use us away. Pollution and take, inducing our brains. We choose to escape, to do what they make, You wear it on your face, I can see the burden on your shoulders heavy. And it's getting unrelenting, you're fouling from how hard the world strains you. It stresses, depresses, confess. It's just a system, there's a hope that puts you in scenarios you never chose. It's not your fault that every known element in your life is in control. Everything but not your soul. So this can be some therapy, some psychedelic clarity. Don't fight between polarities, go where it will not go. Slide between the barricades, it's nice to be aware of things. It's kinda like some kerosene, lighten up the world. It's a poisonous system, you didn't invent this prison. So who'd you be when it's all out? Everything you think needs to go now. Defeat the people that hold down you from beating you, blow out your brain cloud. Become new and escape now, take Route 86, escape now. Gotta lay down everything you learned, everything you know, everything they ever told you. Drain the poison from your soul, bringing it out, draining it out. Every day is about a way to get out. Our minds are polluted, find a solution, life illusion. Portrayed every day in our face, we do they say. The uses away, pollution and take, inducing our brains. We choose to escape, do what they make, do what they make. People beyond. People beyond. Waking up to the people we need to be. 2004. Beat by Cumulus.
Shocking eruption of great electrical energy. I feel connected to all living things, to flowers, to some special spirit, and even to some great unseen living force.
Welcome back, everyone. We find ourselves downstairs at Martin's house again. How are you, sir? Welcome back.
Yeah, good.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas. Happy whatever.
Thanks, Griffin. Yeah, I'm good.
Mm.
I'll try not to kick the table.
Yeah, try not to kick. If you could try not to knock over the gear, mate, I'd really
I'll
appreciate
try
that.
hard.
So, again, well, last time we sat down, we tried to attempt to do something and ended up having an esoteric conversation. So we're going to let go of that straight away now.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're just going to have another esoteric conversation.
Mm.
And when I asked you, what did you want to speak about tonight? I think we brushed upon the Palladians and some of the Palladian stuff last time. But that was a fair while ago.
Yeah.
And I don't really remember what we said. So we're just going to go again. So obviously, it's been another 6 months in the chaos, tending to be normal, cognitive dissonance. However, at the same time, there's been a lot of energetic stuff going on. Everybody's come a long, long way in 6 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah, certainly do.
I have, you have, I imagine the things that you observe through your practice. So where did you want to take us, mate? Where did you want to start this esoteric conversation?
And what occurs to me first is that over the last 6 months, I've heard so many stories of surrender.
Yeah.
And by that, I don't mean waving the white flag and giving in to the bad guys. What I mean is probably actually exactly the opposite. So many people have said they've been through sicknesses or trials or tribulations,
spiritual, mental, physical.
And
emotional.
the outcome, the way out, rather than the outcome, the way out of those situations has been surrender.
Yeah.
And by that, I don't mean laying down your arms, like I said, and waving a white flag.
No.
It's been
surrendering to would you say surrendering to the process or surrendering to these things that are happening? Like how do we frame surrender? That's an interesting term.
Yeah. The context of this is more I believe is more in a spiritual context.
Yeah.
Although we don't need to talk about it from a spiritual point of view necessarily. So if we look at it, that they reckon there are, broadly speaking, 4 stages of awakening.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether you want to make that spiritual awakening or just awakening as being a good person.
Yeah.
Okay. Or awakening to your own personal
coming
true
into
nature and purpose.
Coming into self, I think.
Yeah, coming into self is good because that's really what spirituality is all about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Religion is crowd control, spiritual is personal. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the first level is victimhood, where we've detached ourselves from the matrix enough to realize that things are happening to us.
Yes.
Which is, at that point of awakening, feels true. Things are happening to us. You know, I'm being oppressed by the system. I'm starting to wake up. I'm starting to
see what's
kick
going
my boots
on.
around and starting to make a bit of a stink about it and realize that this is not really where it's at. I'm no longer one of the sheeple or the grey people wandering along to and fro, commuting to and fro and paying their taxes or whatever.
Whichever version of that is. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So victimhood being the first, and not really, you could argue that victimhood is not necessarily a stage of awakening, but it really is, because that's when you start to realize that you're within the matrix.
Yes. Yeah, well, I think...
and that's an awakening.
Yeah, again, the terminology is interesting, but victimhood, I think when you can break the thought pattern that is the system and realize that you, as I say, you are having things done to you.
Being manipulated.
You're being manipulated. And whether that be from the system, personal, spiritual, emotional, there's many different types of that it's not that you are a victim, it's that you realize that things are being done to you, not necessarily within your control, or so you think.
Yeah, because the first reaction to this awakening is that you literally do feel victimized.
Yeah.
It's when you pick up the placard and start protesting about shit or creating a podcast or something. Sorry, that was probably unfair.
That was a bit
unfair. True. we start to kick against the system. We're looking for unlocking a code.
Yeah.
But the orientation, the egoic orientation at that first stage of awakening is, I'm being victimized. I am being got. It's happening to me.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
happening to me. Why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Why do bad
Yeah.
things happen to
Yeah,
good
yeah,
people?
yeah.
Insert expletive question here.
Well, I mean, we can put an exact connotation on it. Like one of the
Mm.
battles that I've had with this show is that it came, and you've worked with me with some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It came about because I didn't feel like I was being heard. That's why I think that's what's behind me becoming a teacher and all these things. Whereas the last sort of 12 months, one of the battles I've had with the show is that the baseline trauma and reason that I had that I wanted to do it in the first place no longer exists, right? I don't, I don't necessarily need to be seen or heard. However, now we've got a bunch of awesome coders all around the globe, and every time I, stop making shows for a while, I get messages going, "Where's the show?" so here we are. So it's a different reason now,
and that does actually lead us perfectly into the second stage of awakening, which is the creative stage, where you realize that you do have a choice, that you can create, and that you are largely responsible for what you create within your life.
Good, bad, ugly.
Delve into the Vedic spirituality thoughts that you create everything around you.
Yes,
because that'd be way too deep a wormhole or a rabbit hole for today's conversation.
What's existing behind you? Do you know what's is everything that's happening behind your head? Do you know it's really there? No, we can't. We won't go there.
We won't go there. Well, what we will say though is you, at some stage, and it is part of the hero's journey. Actually,
yes.
At some stage, because the hero originally was a victim.
That's the reason.
Jesus
That's
Christ,
the reason.
Luke
That's the reason
she
walked
King
out.
Arthur.
That's why they walk out of the village. They've been
walked out, or were
cast out,
or were taken out because they had to be protected.
Yeah.
And so, the creator, you start to realize your creative capability, and to start to realize that you don't have to cop all the crap that gets thrown at you.
No.
And you've got a choice. You can walk away. You can walk away before you get thrown out.
That's right. That's right.
Because being thrown out is a victim. But walking away and saying, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Standing in your sovereignty.
Yeah.
And at that stage of spiritual awakening is pretty exciting because people manifest all sorts of things.
Yes.
I got a new car. I got a house. I got the job that I wanted.
Yeah.
I'm so fucking awesome. I can manifest anything. And it's like this whole...
The law of attraction.
The law of attraction, the law of abundance, the secret, and on we go. And I do have to mention Joe Vitale right now because these 4 things I got from him.
Okay.
And he was the star of The Secret, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I do have to recognize Joe Vitale in this.
Look, I think when we come to the creative side of awakening, I think I'm interested here what the other 2 are, but in each of them, the victimhood thing. So if we go back to victimhood, you can choose the positive side of victimhood, or you can delve and deep dive into the I am a victim, right? And then that becomes part of your process. Then your awakening, I hate that term, your illumination, whatever you want to call it, stutters then, right? Because it's like you've delved into the negative. As always, there's a dark and a light between everything. And I find the same with the creative side. Because you talk about The Secret and these sorts of things, and manifestation is absolutely real. You do manifest your existence around you. However, as with all things in the human experience, you can take it the wrong way, right? I think
that's 100% correct.
You can get egocentric, I suppose might be the term. With the creative process, I've seen that. I am the spiritual healer. I am the Grandmaster Pooh
I'm the
Bar.
life coach.
I'm the Grandmaster Poo Bar
I can help you create as well. Yeah, totally.
And you got to be careful about that. And I think what came to me when you were talking about the creative side of the human self, and there is actually there's sort of both things, right? And I've sort of been saying, it's funny how the hero's journey, that's echo for me, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm coming back around to the original principles that I were using years and years and years ago, and then layering the new information that I have on them to improve, right? But there was that one then, and I'm sure, I know I've said on the show, probably in our shows I've said it, where on one hand you are a drop in the ocean forgot about, right? That's how insignificant you are. In the scheme of the universe, you're a speck of dust on a speck of dust on a speck of dust on the eyelash of the universe, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, as a human, you are the most powerful creator that has ever existed ever, right?
Absolutely.
And that
yeah.
is just evidenced by look around us now, right?
Yeah,
Every
sure.
single thing that we see here, this house, everything is all came
Yeah.
from the ether through human hands
was created. Yeah.
and was created, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's the battle is existing in between those two places. Because
So,
if you think your shit doesn't stink, then your creative aspect of self, whether it be spiritually minded or otherwise, can run away from you.
well, it doesn't mean that other people don't think your shit doesn't stink.
That's right.
So you got your victim there who does start maunging around. It's all happening to me.
Mm.
And starts to come to that point where they realize that they've got a choice.
Mm.
And then they become the creator.
Mm.
And become the creator. We're like kids in a lolly shop.
Yeah.
Feel a bit carried away with it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And
yeah.
that's okay, because you can exist in that state quite happily as a person, non-spiritual, inverted commas, you know, and create Lamborghinis and big houses and investment portfolios and all kinds of things. And you can become, as you say, very egotistical and become a complete arsehole.
But isn't there a level of...
or not? But the next stage is where you start to realize there are certain things that you can't create or uncreate. And certain things like, you know, someone close to you may die. What can you do about that?
Nothing.
You know, that's probably the most definitive one. The breakup of a relationship perhaps is another one, because, you know, maybe you created that.
That's right.
And maybe things weren't right. And maybe in your awakening that situation broke up. Maybe you got sick. And drawing that into where I started with this is that a lot of people have gotten sick this year. And they've been really sick. One fellow I spoke to ended up manifesting throat cancer.
Wow.
But within the space of this last 6 months that we've not been here, he's also unmanifested it.
Yeah, right.
And he had to do that not as a creator, but through a form of surrender. When he actually got to the point of saying, okay, if this is my lot, I accept it. Not that I want it, but if this is my blueprint, this is my life, this is it, then I accept it. And in that acceptance, the magic key turned and the healing began. And there's so many stories that I've heard where people have been just put into just most ridiculously high pressure situation. I don't mean high pressure jobs. I mean
just life situations.
There's one fellow I know who ended up with a hernia, a blood disease, couldn't work. His income protection insurance was not what he thought it was. You know, the guy's struggling, hey.
Yeah.
But he's come to a point of surrender. And I haven't spoken to him since that time.
Yeah.
It's only just before Christmas. But he's coming into a point where he realizes, hey, okay, spirit.
Yeah.
Okay. I surrender.
I get it.
I get it. And that's a turning point. See, we can't be like the adolescent in the lolly shop. We can't be like the kid that thinks everything's happening to them. The baby, the small child. It's all about me.
So what's the third? Did you say what the third one was? We had victim, creator,
and then surrender.
Surrender.
Yeah.
Which is what? Yeah, surrender.
Yeah, okay. And it's that surrender point that I believe we're at that point almost of collective consciousness.
Yeah, collectively. Yeah.
It's coming. It seems to be manifesting very, very strongly.
It's interesting because I just think about, it's hard not to reflect on my process, and there has definitely been a level of surrender and acceptance, because I think the human condition is we always want, what's greener on the other side.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Absolutely. We don't even know what's greener, do we?
We don't even know. We don't even know, right? And I saw I think, did I save it on my phone? I can't remember. That one door closes, another one opens, right? But the ending, because there's so many sayings like that are in the zeitgeist that are not, that's only half of it, right?
Yeah.
I think it was Benjamin Franklin, it might have been, I think, that said that. When one door closes, another one, don't quote me on that at all.
Sure.
When one door closes, another one opens. But the end of that one was, however, often we spend so much time looking at the closed door that we've
banging on it.
then banging on it that we don't see that the door's open behind us, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you long for what was past, or you long for something in the future, or you long for this, or this is that, or whatever. And it may not just be materialistic. It could be spiritual. It could be emotional. It could be physical.
Yeah.
And the surrender thing's very interesting. And maybe you could be right as for collective consciousness. It's an interesting thought. Because I think, when you surrender, because the reality is, mate, although Australia is turning into an interesting place, and we spoke about the etymology of that interesting term with your lovely partner tonight. However, it's not that bad, mate. You know what I mean? Like we're okay.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
And surrender is not about, all the negative things to me, I just let them happen. Surrender, I think, is also about, you know what? We're okay.
Yeah.
We're
and
okay.
That's the key. See, as a creator, when we first start creating, it's very easy to start to create the things that we want, because those things, they're on the cusp of consciousness most of the time anyway. And so it's very easy. But then as we strive to create more, perhaps we do get a little bit egotistical and a bit greedy about it.
Yeah.
And we start to put effort in. And effort, honestly, is the enemy of creation.
Okay, expand on that.
Because when you are taking a great amount of effort to try to create something, let's say you're trying to buy a new car, and every time you get $2,000 in the bank, along comes a bill, and something comes out of it. So you try harder and you try harder. What you are telling your subconscious is that I can't afford a car. And as the bills come out, only confirms it for you. Yeah. So it's like for every force, there is an equal and opposite force. So if we're pushing too hard to create, we're only going to create an opposing force against us. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can't sit on your ass.
That's what I mean. $1 million. Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, yeah.
There's a different way of doing it. And that way is the way when you're first creating, miracles happen. I can guarantee it. Miracles happen. Then you get to a point where you start to mature in your creation, and realize, and that there is a mechanism there, and the mechanism is that the more we fight against the not the creation, but the manifestation that is in the way of the creation, the greater that manifestation grows and resists us. So when we swap to surrender, say, okay, sure, I'd like a new car. So come on. When you're ready, thank you. Yeah. The resistance drops. Therefore, you're not getting the
pushing
backlash,
yourself against
so
it,
to speak. And the energy can flow. I mean, that's a really simple explanation of it. And we can do a whole podcast on this if you want to, because it's a very fascinating topic.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose it's there's the balance is the interesting thing, right? Because I can totally see from an energetic standpoint that the more you try and, what came to my mind when you were talking there about that is wants and needs, right? So in your creative state, you create things that you want. But did you need them, right? Yeah. Because then the universe, okay, this is what you want. Yeah. Okay, you can have what you want. Yeah. It's not what you need, and what you want's going to teach you a terrible lesson potentially, but you can still have it, right?
So it comes down to, it almost comes down, I was thinking about this just the other day, actually, and I didn't even think it was going to be part of our podcast. I was coming the other day and I was thinking about, God, inverted commas, because I don't believe in God. I believe in spirit, totally different. And the Christian belief. I met it when I was traveling back from doing my Lemurian healing course in Hawaii in 2019, which was the last time I traveled overseas because of the big you-know-what. I was full of excitement of healing energy. Yeah. It was quite amazing course. And I met a guy at the airport in a wheelchair,
Mm.
and sort of we happened to be sitting next to each other. I didn't seek him out. I started talking about stuff and healing and stuff. And he was he was a Christian guy. He was actually a pastor who was going to, he was flying to Australia because he was going to somewhere up north, one of the islands there. It could have been Solomon's, to relieve the pastor there and take over the congregation for a while.
Right.
And this guy's knees are absolutely screwed, And I said, well, I'll send some healing energy for you if you like. And he said, oh, no, I don't know that God wants my knees to be healed.
You don't know that God wants. Okay.
Right.
Right.
I said, well, doesn't it say in the Bible that Jesus said, if two or more of you agree in my name, then the Father in heaven will do it for you. And he said, yes, but it says, but only if it's the Father's will. And I thought, okay, I didn't have an answer to that until 2 days ago. I thought, I don't believe that. And I realized that the father, just to go along with the analogy, what loving father would not give the kid everything they want, except maybe those things that are not going to be good for them? And that's where I think surrender comes in. Not that I believe in a God so much as a separate entity. I believe we are God.
Yeah.
And so at some stage you got to stop creating like this banshee of, or like I said, like a kid in a lolly shop, because some of the stuff you're going to create ain't going to be necessarily good for you.
No, that's right.
So here we are. We come around to this. I suppose this is the spiritual cusp of it. And what are those things, as you say, are good for you, and what of those things are really down the track not going to be in your best interests?
Yeah. What do you need versus what do you want?
Yeah. But when we start to co-create, which is what surrender's about, it's co-creating
with the universe.
Yeah, with the universe. Like here we are, this person running around thinking we can do anything we like, and we can. All of a sudden grows up a little bit. It's like the saying from Mark Twain, when I was 17 years old, I thought my old man was the stupidest, most pig-headed person I'd ever met. And when I turned 21, 4 years later, I was amazed at how much he'd learned.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
I had a class the other day, and it was a good mix of like really young fellas, like 17, 18, and then there was a good mix of sort of mid-age fellas. Like it was a really good mix of youth and experience. And we got around to discussing like, older men giving younger men advice. And when you're 17, because a couple of these kids, because I could see in the class, they didn't care. They thought we were full of shit. You know what I mean? You old bastards don't know, And, at the end of the day, we're having a conversation after everything was done. I'm like, yeah, look, and I'm aware that, a few of you in here think that all the advice and stuff and stories that we've been sharing today aren't of value. Just want you to know that I knew everything too when I was 17, right? You can either choose to listen or not. However, yeah, it's interesting, right? Yeah, it's something like that. It's amazing. 4 years, you learn so much.
Yeah.
It's like when you can't be 25 and doling out life advice. Your prefrontal cortex is not even really finished developing. You know what I mean? Like you have a few ideas that you think are good. But whatever ideas, I remember when I was 25, whatever ideas I had at 30, I thought I was an idiot, right? And here I sit at 40, and I'm even, my 30-year-old self was a complete idiot, right? So is it benefit of, the problem is with this stuff, Martin, I find that, as, we've been talking about this stuff for quite a few years now, if you think about it, and you as the elder statesman, even you have grown exponentially in the time that I've known you, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you get to a certain age and you're just consolidating. No. You are, every day you can have your mind blown. Doesn't matter how many, trips around the sun you've had. You know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
And I think do you think these four things that we're talking about, is it cyclical? Like I do find like do you come back around, you have to surrender again through with more knowledge and understanding? Is that
Yeah, look, there's wheels within wheels, isn't there?
mm,
You're going to, tomorrow you could be feeling like a victim.
yeah.
The day after you could be surrendering to that and then starting to be a creator again.
Yeah.
It is within, like it's, I don't know about cyclical, sure.
You couldn't put a
It's
timeline
more
on
like,
it. Yeah.
it's more like all the cogs within a watch.
Yeah.
They all have to work together,
Yeah.
But see, the surrender is, it's like a coming of age in some ways,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd echo that.
Yeah, it's
Because I mean it's just let go, man. Just let go, dude. It's okay. Just let go.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
You still have the things that you want,
Mm.
but you have the wisdom to know that some of those things are just not important, or maybe not necessary.
Yeah.
And that's it's your choice to decide that, and your choice to say, okay, I not taking it. I just take your hands off the wheel a bit and relax. Yeah. And
there's also
let
a
your life blueprint come through, so to speak.
I think there's a surrender. Well, I know for myself personally, there was a surrender in the process where when you become, trying to think of the right terms here, when you become set in your ways, right? You don't want to shift from a perspective. You believe a certain thing and then that's it, right? What I find with surrender is that if your ways have caused pain, right, which inevitably, if you're a stubborn person, they will, part of that surrender process, and then the true letting go and surrendering of that, of whatever this thing is you actually feel the things you have caused, right? Or you might see truly for the first time. And obviously we're talking about negative aspects of self at the moment. However,
sure,
if you can surrender the negative, and because that's unfortunately the dominant feeling set, I would say, in the modern day, if you can surrender the negative but also feel it yourself, surrender and go, oh wow, that's actually what I've done. Through that surrender, you then can truly let it go, because you just said a simple thing there. It's like, yeah, it doesn't serve you anymore.
Yeah.
The only way you know that is if you've experienced why it doesn't serve you, right?
And this really just nudges up on the fourth level, which is enlightenment. Yeah. Which is where, because what you're talking about is enlightenment. Where you realize, hey, I've not only affected me, I've affected other people.
Yeah.
That my imprint in life, I'm not an island. And some of the decisions I may have made have been not for my own best interest, but also possibly not for the best interest of others as well. And so we start to come to that level of enlightenment, that full awareness of who we really are as a person. And I got to try to remember how Joe Vitale put it, but he said, you can never tell yourself or anyone else, for that matter, that you've reached a level of enlightenment. Because if you think that, that's just your ego trying to tell you that it doesn't exist anymore.
Yes.
Isn't that true?
Yes, it's very, very true. It's very, very true.
And so you're right about the cyclical nature of it. You bump up against this awareness, oh my God, what an ass I was. Or, oh my God, how could I have been like that? Boom, come back down, and you're onto the next wave of the oceans coming through to ride on.
Yeah, because this is the thing, when you're
on that wave and you surrender to the power of it.
That's true, isn't it? Because if you
you
think about it, you get enlightened and go, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. Now I'm a victim. Hang on a minute. Now I've got to create my way out of this to surrender. And then I can.
And there are waves within waves.
Yeah.
But I do think it's happening in a collective consciousness way as well.
I think so.
Which of course leads us directly into the ascension matrix, doesn't it?
Okay, directly. I don't want to leave enlightenment alone just for a second. I think these processes, right? So if we go back, victim, creator, surrender, enlightened, right?
Yeah.
If I, those you've encapsulated, like I think I've been around that wheel 30 times in the last 12 months.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
In different variations and trials and tribulations. I can see that. And the one thing that, in the instant gratification society that we've created, and the fact that we can pretty much have anything we want, which is not a good thing either, right? There's too much, right? The truth of each of those processes, whether it be creative or whether it be surrender or enlightenment, the thing we spoke a bit. Oh, and by the way, the truth has a ring to it, has echoed around the globe. Okay?
Oh yeah,
that was and that is so true, right? And what I've found about, and let's not get started on what is truth, right? Because we'll never shut up about that. But let's just agree to that truth exists from a personal standpoint, whatever your personal truth is. And I think this is the key as to why people won't do it. Truth is hard, man. It's very the actual personal truth of your existence is very rarely unicorns and rainbows, man.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it is you are taking responsibility for things that probably you should have done better. That's the truth, right? If you are in your victim mode, as you say, what percentage of that have you actually, what did you do? Because it takes two to tango in most cases. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the truth of this spiritual process is that it's harsh. And I think that's why people allow themselves, like we've been in this space for a long time, man. How many, spiritual healers and gurus and, all the above. And they get into that creative process. They make a few things happen.
Yeah.
And then they're God, right? And then their ego takes over.
Yeah.
And you never reach the surrender part until life smacks you in the face, right? Which inevitably happens after a while, right? And, but if you can face the truth of the creative process, which is what we talked about before, you may get what you want. It's not necessarily what you need, and that will create other issues. Yeah, the truth's harsh, man. And I think that's something that, I'd like to get your thoughts on, as far as like personal truth, spiritual truth. Like it seems to be, and this could just be me, but it seems to be rarely a positive. You know what I mean? If you're going to get down into the nitty gritty, which you have to in order to reach enlightenment and therefore ascension, supposedly, right? You've got to sit in the dark and the shit and the mud and the blood, and then you've got to sit there, because that's where truth lies in a lot of ways for a lot of people. Yeah. Whereas, we just distract ourselves instead, you know what I mean? Instead of facing that truth, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think it takes a few cycles of going through, like, it occurs to me that you're having this full-on argument with your partner or your boss or whoever, someone down the road. And at some stage and you're being a victim. When you're arguing, you're being a victim.
Yeah, as soon as you're responding in that way, you're your own.
You're
victim.
reacting.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's happening to me. I don't like it.
Yeah.
At some stage, you're gonna start. Hopefully, if this is going to end up well, then you're going to one or the other of you is just going to realize, hey, I can turn this around. Start to create something better. But that creation is not going to come if you start throwing that at the other person.
Yeah.
It's only when you surrender to the situation and start to listen that any resolution can actually be made. It doesn't matter which one of the two people does it, but that's the only way out of a situation like that. Think about it. And that then leads to a level of enlightenment in in your own, like you say, what you've created, what you contributed to that argument, in that relationship, to whatever it might have been. I think that's a beautiful example of just one small microcycle, one dimension of this evolution that we're talking about.
Yeah,
having that little seed,
that
little seed of oh my God, by not pushing my own wagon, by listening and surrendering to the situation, I can actually create something better. That's enlightenment.
It is. It absolutely is. I can echo with that. I think communication, honesty in communication, especially around relationships, I think is very, very important.
Yeah.
And it's less about you find this in all things too, Martin. Like it's whether it be leadership, whether it be management, whether it be communication, whether it be anything, man. It's not about the fun times are the fun times, right?
Yeah.
But it's not about the fun times. It's about what happens when you're in the dog days, right? It's like when someone's being brutally honest with you, do you choose to react in a negative way? Or do you choose to, obviously depending on the source of where it's coming from. However, if it's someone that you love and trust and you know who loves and trusts you, it's like, okay, well, I need to be able to step away from the ego side and listen to this person because they don't have there's not an ulterior motive, which unfortunately a lot of the time these days there is.
Well, sometimes there is. It wouldn't be an argument if there wasn't.
That's right.
But I want to bring you back to truth.
Yes, please.
Within that beautiful example of the 4 stages of enlightenment, which was interesting. What's the truth of that conversation, of that argument? I'll bet you, without either person lying, were they to transcribe what happened, it would be completely different. And I guarantee you that those 2 versions of the truth are completely different to what a third party would have observed happened.
Yeah, and this is the problem, yeah?
The truth is subjective.
Exactly.
Yeah, unless you want to start talking about law and law again. But the truth within the circumstances that you've posed it in is purely subjective. I mean, we could go along the whole thing. We've got these microphones with blue foamy things on them.
Yeah.
We call that blue.
Yeah.
Because we've both learned that that's blue, but what's the truth? What color is it really?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And again, in
fact, I'll tell you what is not a color at all.
No, blue.
It's a vibration.
Oh,
so anyway, what's the truth? I mean, and we could. So I actually did an interesting. I did an interesting meditation some time back, where I what did I call it? Truth as a cover-up.
Because this is the thing. You are right. It's entirely subjective. However, at the same time, and this is the messed up way all this works, if you don't surrender to your own personal truth, you're not going to move forward, right? Even though your truth is subjective to you.
Well, that's right, because we each create our own version of reality.
Exactly. Right. And the thing is too, okay, here's another one. If you don't then, in this whatever paradigm we want to talk about, is that, let's say it's a relationship, right? If you don't accept the other person's truth, even though it goes against your truth, in order to move forward and have enlightenment and surrender and creation with that person, you must accept that their truth is not your truth.
Yeah, and it's a version of the circumstances.
Yeah,
and that's where the reconciliation comes in.
Right, and then you take the 2 versions of truth, neither of which are true from either side, bring them together to create, I suppose, another truth together, which another third person would look and go, "That's not." You know what I mean? This is where we go. This is why these are esoteric conversations, everybody. And look, Law versus Law was not a very popular show because myself and Martin got down and dirty having a deep conversation. But please go back and listen to that one. It didn't. I think a lot of people didn't understand what we were trying to do, and maybe neither did we at the time. However, I had a lot of fun with that one.
It was a good one. It made me laugh when I listened back.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious because we just
it really is.
Yeah, we just never did just layers upon layers, right? So, I mean, because, you know, you're a healing practitioner, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You've been my healing practitioner for many years now. Thank
That's
you.
an honor, thank you.
Thank you. Truth is a perspective. And through our sessions, I've faced a lot of my own personal truths.
Mm-hmm.
And that has then moved me forward. But you're right. I mean, any of those things that, yeah, it's wow. Because you are right. You are right.
It's what we perceive to be true.
Mm. See,
It's
we're going to,
been
do you know,
said
we're going to end up law
that-
versus law again, because then
No,
we're like,
no, we're
what
not
is
going
true?
there. We're not going there. But what I would like to say is that the meaning that you ascribe to a situation
Mm.
is the belief that drew it to you in the first place.
The meaning that you ascribe to a certain situation or thing or
Yeah.
whatever.
Is the belief that drew it to you in the first place.
So then,
So I'll give you an example.
yeah, give me an example.
Back when I worked for a little while. I did work for a registered training organization for a while.
Mm.
And one of the office girls was Valentine's. It was the day after Valentine's Day. One of the office girls, she was livid because her boyfriend had not bought her a bouquet of flowers.
Mm.
What he'd done, the scoundrel, and she was really shit off with him. On his way home from work, because he was a shift worker and it was late, on his way home from work, he'd rummaged through people's gardens and picked all these different flowers.
Yeah.
Which he gave to her for Valentine's Day.
Mm.
Okay. So what's she upset about? You know, this guy.
How long did that take him? You know what I mean? He's probably
this guy
driving.
loved her so much that he went and stole flowers out of people's gardens on his way home from a late shift at work. So he had something to present to her because he was at work and couldn't go and buy something. And besides, you know, unless you buy flowers 100 years before Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
She was shit off. So what's the belief? What is the meaning that she ascribed to that event? I'm not worth a bouquet of flowers.
Right.
You know, whatever. I don't know what it was. You know.
So she's just ascribed some sort of material worth to. Yeah,
but that
as opposed to
that
him actually making an
belief
effort
that she had drew that event to her, creating the argument. And I don't know, maybe the demise of the relationship. Had she had a different belief about herself, that, wow, thank you for going to so much trouble. That's awesome. And had a little tear in her eye. Everything would have been cool.
Instead of stopping at Woolies and picking up the last bouquet of flowers.
Yeah, some wilted little lilies for $10.
In other words, he spent how long he spent doing that.
In her emotional bank account, that might have been better.
Yeah.
Because bought ones are what you need.
Yeah, you've spent resource on that.
And such, you know.
Yeah.
So it is an interesting thing. And that's another, here we go again, it's another Joe Vitale thing, you know, that the meaning you ascribe to an event is the belief that drew it to you in the first place.
That's interesting.
It's a good one to ponder.
It is a very good one to ponder, and you could put it across so many different things. And okay, so let's bring it back.
Steve Covey called it the emotional bank account.
Yeah.
You know, Steve Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes, I've seen it.
He called it the emotional bank account and things, and, you know, stuff like that.
So then if you go back to surrender, okay, so the meaning you have is the belief, right? Is what we're saying.
Yeah.
So then when you learn to surrender and let go, both the belief and the meaning become irrelevant.
True.
Which is how and when you can truly let it go.
And you can live in the moment.
Yeah. Because it's not worth it.
And you can have a lovely bunch of wildflowers.
That's right, exactly.
By someone that cares about you.
Yeah, exactly. Someone took the time to steal and, you know, bank a bunch of flowers up for you. Be grateful.
Yeah, in any situation. Yeah.
But it's more about effort, isn't it? Like, I mean, that would have took a lot more effort
in that situation.
To do that.
It would have been a lot easier and probably cheaper for him to buy a $10 or even $100 bouquet of flowers.
That's contemplation stuff, man. That sort of makes me want to turn the mics off and just sit here and go,
have a little think.
Because these things, You know, what I find with this stuff, Martin, is that you always provide me with a different perspective, which I truly appreciate. However, at the same time, it's all the same too. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the most profound things that you will ever contemplate are the most simple. Right?
Yeah.
If you think about that moment, it's like, oh wow, I know, now I understand. What brought you that understanding was probably the simplest thing that you could ever think of. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If we pause enough to listen to the truth, which has a ring to it,
the actual truth.
Yeah, if there is such a thing, but it's not so much. It's probably not so much that it's the truth or that it's actual, but the ring that it has is that it's the truth for that moment.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's like
it's
a key.
True in that
it's the
moment.
key for the door. I'm not saying anyway it's false. I'm saying is that is the that's the key to this, to whatever it is that's happening for you. That's the next step. That's the next door opening. Yeah.
Mate, I need to go to the loo. We're going to have to pause for a second.
Okay.
Right. So
here we are.
If truth is true in the moment, there's no need to giggle like that.
Yes, sir.
Does that mean that, I mean, I was thinking, whatever reason I was thinking about negative belief systems, right? We create belief systems because trauma, A, B, C, D, right? However, a lot of it is, for whatever that moment was when that belief system was created, in that moment it was true. Is that not true?
Yes. Yeah, okay. Belief systems.
Because I mean, if you were saying
it's a way of interpreting the world to preserve your egoic identity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I don't get enough food, I scream my guts out. I get fed. Therefore, I need to make a lot of noise to be noticed. That's just off the top of my head.
That's a basic need.
One. Maybe not a really good one, but it is. You know, no matter how much I show off to my father, I never get any acknowledgement, and so you know, I'm worthless.
Yeah. And in that moment, that is true.
In the moment, I feel worthless, yes, and therefore, as that is reinforced over time, it becomes more and more a internal truth. Yeah, so we can call it an internal truth. A belief is an internal truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean, isn't that? I think these internal, what made me think about that is just some of my internal truths that I've had to surrender to because they just didn't serve me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I was so steadfast on that being true, where through the lens of time and knowledge and, understanding, it wasn't. However, it was for so long, right? Because truth is is a perspective, isn't it?
Well, when you hold a belief, which obviously you believe to be true, you must prove it to be true. And if what is happening in the world around you does not match your belief, you'll creatively and unconsciously create circumstances to prove that belief to be true.
That's right. Yeah, you'll go looking for your own echo chamber instead of facing that it's not true.
Dysfunctional patterning, really, So people who believe they're worthless are usually high achievers.
Yeah, because nothing's ever good enough. Yeah.
And they'll usually achieve until they're at a point where they can't stand it anymore and something will happen and the company will blow up and they have to start all over again. So they're constantly in a cycle of busyness, when realistically it all comes from a lack of self-worth, self-esteem.
Self-worth is interesting. Self-worth is very interesting because I think self-worth in the modern society has multiple connotations. And, you have obviously a materialistic connotation, the money, the, physical, blah, blah, blah. And I think self-worth in a system that's designed to literally suck your soul dry of anything worthwhile, right?
Do you believe that? Sorry. I'll retract that question.
No. There's no retracted questions.
Because it is a belief that not everyone holds.
Mm.
And I know it's a popular belief. So that's why I say I retract it, because don't want to be personal about it.
No.
But it's a belief a lot of people hold. But is it true?
I think it depends on where you are in the matrix, right?
If you're up the top, it's not true.
That's right.
So at the top, it's true because you're doing the sucking.
That's right.
Down the bottom, you're being sucked.
Yeah, that's right.
And but I mean,
with analogies here.
But there are people who are not being sucked dry.
That's right.
So what's the difference between those who are not being sucked dry and those that are?
Is it perspective?
It can be perspective.
But is it situational? I mean, this is the thing, there is in modern society, because of, and it's, again, I love the nuance that we have to get into in these conversations, these esoteric conversations, because it's due to the fact of the markers which are within the society that are deemed to make you successful, right? And you're striving to even meet a basic level of those markers, that the effort that it requires and the jobs that you may have to do being in a lower middle class environment, they suck.
Well, see,
but then again, I've known forklift operators, they were unbelievably happy.
Absolutely, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
So there can be two ways that you can react to the amount of pressure put on you to perform. One is you can perform and stay within the system, and work your guts out, as many of our forefathers did.
Yeah,
for king and country, contributing to the
greater good, as it was,
the GDP, and paying their taxes and doing the right thing. And are they happy? I think a lot of those people were. And they had long lives, and they ended up with a retirement package, didn't they?
Yeah.
These days, that sort of thing happens, and you don't get the retirement.
No, we don't get anything. No.
Yeah, but then other people, and this is the other people, will rebel against the system and become the hippie or the outcast or the fringe dweller or the protester or whatever it might be. So see, realistically, it sort of comes down to, I'd like to say at this stage that it comes down to free will. But free will is not always free.
No, it's an illusion of free will. Yeah.
Well, I do think, though, that the cusp of this stage of the evolution of humanity is about free will, however.
I think so, because I mean, but then the problem lies within, right? Is that if you, so let's say this podcast goes viral and it reaches X amount of people, and it causes a revolution where three quarters of Australians wake up tomorrow and go, "I'm a victim. I don't need this, want this, or actually want to be a part of this anymore. I'm going to create my own reality. I surrender." And then we just don't turn up to work, right? So then society collapses. You know what I mean?
Luckily, we have microcycles of that, so it doesn't all happen at once.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, you know what I'm trying to say?
Maybe.
Because if you get, so then, because we sort of started this roughly with, does society suck your soul dry? I think, again, perspective, yes, it does. However, if you think as a collective, if we are in the surrender cycle, we've already realized that it doesn't make sense. They're all, because I mean, again, yeah, sure, our fathers, whatever.
Yeah.
And again, I think we look at the past through rose-colored glasses too, because our fathers' saw World War II, Depression, Vietnam. Like, they didn't not see anything.
Yeah.
And there's a rose-colored glasses where we think they were happy, where I don't know that they were, right? I mean, yeah, because if they were, why is probably my generation and then sort of the one above and below me in particular going, you know what, fuck you. Like, we don't want what they're selling, right? Or is it a, because the thing is, if you think of it from a marketing perspective, right, if you know that the 4 cycles are victim, creator, surrender, enlightenment, right, you trap people in the victim and creator cycle, you're gonna make a lot of money.
That's true,
right?
Yeah. Look, I think not everyone is at the same stage at the same time.
Oh, of course not.
So some people are going to be, when I say people are were happy, generally happy, because there wasn't the awareness that we have now.
No,
like you say, 1945, we just finished the war. The last
everyone was just happy to be alive.
And
the West had all the gold, and everyone was happy to be alive.
It's really only 70 years since then. I mean, I know there was the Vietnam War and there was the Korean War, and there's the wars going on all over the place.
20 years waste in Afghanistan,
yeah, exactly. But the last World War was 70 years ago.
The last war between major powers,
Yeah, and 70 years later. I mean, it's hard to imagine planes coming in right now, the air raid siren going off. You have to turn off the microphones and go into the air raid shelter.
Yeah.
Because the enemy are bombing civilians.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I don't want to get into a debate about Syria and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, generally, largely speaking, in our society,
in modern Western society, theoretically,
that's not happening.
Yeah.
And I think we've grown up, some of us. But there's a higher frequency available now. That's why people are waking up. I mean, from the extremes of being worried about climate change for our children's sake, to the extremes of rebelling against the government for not planting enough trees, or I mean, there's that. And I don't really believe in the protest side of things. I think that when we protest about something, we're simply adding to the energy that we're protesting against in the first place. Not that I don't think we should do anything about some of those subjects. I think we should, but not in that way. So there's from that through to having conversations like this, where we're, having esoteric conversations to hopefully inspire people to look deeper into this side of our nature.
And the thing is too, is that we can complain and it'd suck our souls dry and blah 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 blah. The reality is, we are sitting here in a beautiful space having a conversation on technology, and
exactly.
The only way that we have the ability to sit here and even contemplate this stuff is because of the level of peace and prosperity, I suppose.
Yeah,
that
we have.
That we have.
We should,
right? And you could open the wrong page on the internet, and that would be a lie, right? Our personal truth right now, as we sit here having this discussion, is that we're two good friends having an esoteric conversation about many different topics. Yet if we spend 5 minutes on the internet, we could have a completely different perspective as to what the world was actually going on, right?
Yeah, exactly. So much information. I think an important part of accessing truth and being happy, which really everyone wants to be happy.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the truth.
That's the truth. That one has a ring to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We would prefer to be
part
happy.
of being happy is being able to step back from the narrative.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's one that I think that's one we all had to learn probably the hard way over the last few years. You had to reach depending on what your perspective was, it doesn't matter. Whatever your perspective was, you had to reach critical mass as far as how deep in the rabbit hole you're going. And then just living your life. I suppose my issue with that is, Martin, is that while we're just living our life, the corporations are making more money than they ever have. Everything's up 40%. You know what I mean? They're continuing to try and squeeze us and squeeze us and squeeze us if we look at our current situation, which is an obvious play for global control in one form or another. So it's like, yes, you, in order to release yourself or surrender, as we spoke about as we started this conversation with, you must let go of the narrative. But at what point as the collective do we go, hey, enough, right? Okay. Because you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? Because a lot of, you know, I know myself personally, I know a lot of the people that listen to this podcast all over the planet, you know, they're all middle class families, up, you know, lower, upper middle, somewhere in the middle class, right? And like majority of people are struggling to even make ends meet right now. So it's like, how can you?
Yeah,
that's the catch-22. You know what I mean?
It is. It's hard when you put it in those terms. It's easier to sit here with just having had a nice big chunk of steak each for dinner, and not having any wants, and talk about this sort of stuff. When the wolf's at the door,
it's a different story.
Self-actualization's a long way from the top of the pyramid.
That's right.
A long way to the top of the pyramid.
That's right.
And I 100% agree. Notwithstanding that, I do believe that as we each step away from the narrative and find harmony within ourselves, that because we are creators, we'll create a circumstance around ourselves that is one of happiness. It'll be that happiness with, enough to eat, but not an abundance of food. Yeah, that happiness, the happiness of having family around us. Let's not forget that. At least in my belief, we do choose a blueprint for this lifetime. And so there can be a reason for being in a less than abundant situation to balance, because I believe in past lives, ancestral
DNA trauma, that sort of stuff.
For that to be worked through, to be worked out. And that's probably another much deeper conversation.
Yeah, it is. You just prompted another 1,000 questions.
Yeah.
I mean,
and here we are. As I say, we're fairly okay. We're okay. Yeah, we're more than okay, actually.
In the grand scheme of things, we are.
Does that mean because we have food in our tummies and a roof over our heads, we're going to have food in our tummies tomorrow and a house over our heads, that we've got good friends like each other that we can call upon if needed, and we're in decent relationships and have people around us that we can actually be thinking and speaking about self-actualization?
True.
If we were all suffering, it would be like, back in the industrial age. I just finished reading, or not finished reading, I'm halfway through a book called The Fatal Shore, about how Australia was founded with the convicts and da-da-da-da-da. Man, I'll tell you, 18th century England, particularly London, was not a place to be.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
The old Oliver Twist was no fable.
No way. Yeah. And you stole a loaf of bread, you're coming to Australia. 6 months on a boat, mate.
And pretty well back then, what was it about? And hark a little bit here to the Ascension Matrix, because we go through cycles of cultural evolution. As a planet, we're going through cycles of evolution.
Oh, there's cycles within cycles within cycles on every level.
I mean, we had the Renaissance, which was a spiritual revolution, or beauty and stuff. But
It's
I tell
also
you what,
during a
you
warming
wouldn't,
period of the
you
planet,
wouldn't,
because when the planet gets warmer, it's
well,
better
that's
for
true.
everybody. But don't worry,
Yeah.
let's not start that.
But you wouldn't want to get sick back then.
No, that's right. You wouldn't want to have an accident. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You wouldn't want to break your arm.
Out
or your
with the
leg.
leeches.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to have broken your arm or your leg.
No, you'd
in-
fall off the bloody off the Renaissance art ladder real quick,
Yeah.
and be down to pauper level faster than you could say, "Where's my paintbrush?"
Yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah.
I mean, we, and of course, history is written by who
The
knows
victor,
who.
yeah.
The victor. Yeah.
Mhm.
But we as a race, 70 years ago, we wouldn't have thought twice about racial prejudice, punched someone else in the nose.
Mm.
There's separateness between men and women. Just think about it, and how far have we come in that period of time that these things are such an issue these days.
Yeah.
But
there is also,
so they should be, because we're coming to a point of harmony and balance between the masculine and the feminine.
Masculine and feminine doesn't technically exist anymore, but we.
Yeah, well, yeah, according to some people, and really, there are dark forces at work.
Yes.
I tell you, you can't have anything without there being a masculine and a feminine.
That's right.
Without a light and a dark.
Yeah.
Without an up and a down.
Yeah.
Inside, outside, however way you want to do it. The whole the gender war that's going on now had nothing really to do with masculinity and femininity.
No.
Because
do you know there's an interesting line of research? Douglas Murray, he did some research on that, and they reckon that his research basically, when and you talk about cyclical societies, right? The path to enlightenment. Once a society reaches a certain level of material wealth and comfort, and there's really nothing else left to want. And when that civilization then begins to fall, that's when we start messing around with sexuality.
Absolutely, it is. There was a fellow, mate, honestly, I'm not good at names.
No, it's okay.
I think it was, there's a fellow who was a scientist who did an experiment with mice. It was Universe 101 or something.
Oh, yeah, there's been a few. Some of those mouse experiments are very, very interesting.
This guy back in the 50s who did it, it was a utopia for mice. They had anything, all the food they wanted, everything that they needed. He repeated this experiment like about 50 times from, whatever. And every time the outcome was the same, because the mice didn't have to fight for their food, didn't have to hunt for their food, because it was all given. Exactly what you're saying. They became lazy. Interestingly enough, they became lazy. They're not interested in sex. The birth rate dropped. Many males became homosexual. Just interesting. It's an interesting read. I'd encourage any of our listeners who are interested in that to have a look at it, because it's exactly what you're saying, and it's just not humans, obviously.
No.
Is
it because this is again the paradigm, isn't it? Right. This is you're nothing but you're everything. Sure, we want to be happy. Sure, we want to manifest and create and stuff like that. However, the reality is, without some sort of resistance, without some sort of struggle, you will literally waste away, right?
Yeah, it would seem so within this reality. Yeah. See, but that's in this cycle,
in this space,
this space, in this ascension cycle, in this world, this dimension, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, and because it's just as there are these cycles we spoke about with the victim, creator, surrender, enlightenment. There's also cycles, the larger cycles that we go through as well. And it's I believe within this construct, this time space that we're in, I do believe free will is the key. It's the choice, and what we make of that choice determines, or how we make that choice determines our I'll use the word success loosely, our success,
our existence, our
our
existence.
existence. So it established 4 levels of 4 levels
Of awakening,
of awakening,
awareness, illumination,
yeah, enlightenment, and then we spoke about truth.
truth,
Then we got
subjective truth.
stuck into how bad the system is, and
Well, I mean,
you know,
and this is the thing, right?
Yes,
So it's like
it's-
on one hand, yeah, man, we're so lucky we're sitting here, all that sort of stuff. However, on the other hand, I know you're worried for your grandchildren. I'm worried for my children. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, whilst yes, we have the ability to have these discussions and these conversations, also ignoring the fact that there is some really dark forces out there that seem to be not have our best interest at heart. You know, what's the way forward there? Continue having these conversations, you know, the old flower in the gun barrel. Like, I mean, it's a hard one, you know? And that's
no, I don't. No, I'm not worried for my grandchildren, not at all. Which is interesting perspective, isn't
it is an interesting perspective. You need to expand on that before we try and wrap it up.
it? Well, I guess I'm not worried at all because I am not invested in this existence
Mm,
for you, me, or anybody.
mm,
It's just an existence. It's just an incarnation.
mm.
Now, let's say that, you know, the planet explodes and we all get thrown off like fleas off a dog.
Right. We wouldn't know anyway.
Because someone decided to let a bomb off that just blew the whole world up or some shit like that.
Mhm.
You know, that Austin Powers guy or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Well, that's the end of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's not the end. Not in my
Yeah.
perspective.
Death is only the beginning.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, death's only the beginning. It's interesting. Yeah. I heard this amazing little dialogue, which I'll try and repeat, but I can certainly send it to you if you want to hear it in its fullest entirety. Is 2 babies, 2 twins in the womb. Is there life after birth? And one says, no, that's the end. Once we leave here, why would you want to leave? Why would you want to leave here?
It's warm,
We
got
can
all
hear
the food.
it's warm with food. We can hear the heartbeat of the mother. Why would anyone think there's anything beyond this? This is all there is in existence.
Mm.
The other one says, no, I believe there's more to it than this.
Mm.
It's an interesting little.
That's an interesting perspective.
It's an interesting perspective, and it's true. And here we are in the womb of the Mother Earth.
Mm.
Here we are, and you know, we stop kicking and fighting.
Yeah,
we actually do have all the abundance that we need.
Well, we do.
Let's think about how much have we actually taken from Mother Earth, and there's still more to give.
Mm.
Is it ever going to end? Is there ever going to be an end to it? I personally don't think there is.
Mm.
I
think that at some point, if you look at history, human history, cataclysmic history, I think in some instances, the argument could be made that Mother Earth goes, hey, enough now. I'm going to turn this shit upside down. You guys are going to start again. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's right. I mean,
is that back to the cyclical nature of existence?
The first 6 weeks of the pandemic, the lockdowns, where within 6 weeks, you could see the Himalayas from India. There were blue skies in China.
Yeah.
There were dolphins swimming up the canals in Venice.
Yeah.
In 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Come on. Bullshit.
Yeah.
We're not that powerful.
Yeah.
Not really.
And we're not that important either.
But taking it beyond this existence, look, you know, if we global warm the place so the planet blows up,
warming is better.
That's the end of this planet.
Mm.
It's not the end of this existence. It's not the end of spirit. It's how many planets are there out there?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know, I get into the rabbit hole of whether they're inhabited or not.
Mm.
You know, we are a form of divine consciousness.
Yes.
A pinpoint of divine consciousness upon this planet.
Mm.
And we tend to think this is all there is. No.
Well, no, I don't think.
The spirit that dwells within the bodies of my grandchildren. Okay, where are they going to have it? a cool time
Mm.
or a hard time.
Mm.
They have to wear gas masks
Or
all
an
the
interesting time.
Yeah, or not. This is their time.
Mm.
You know, and
This is their
shall we
incarnation
say,
of this existence in this
yeah,
moment.
yeah, and shall we say that Mother Earth does shake us all off like a bunch of fleas, and the Mother Earth then splits apart, and that's the end of that. Goes whizzing off into space and destroys
The solar
Jupiter and the
system as
rest
we
of it,
know
and
it.
everything
Yeah.
falls to pieces
It's
in
all
a
done.
nuclear reaction.
Is that going to affect the countless solar systems that are in this galaxy? No, it's not.
Is it? And I mean, we've got lots of them whizzing towards us now. Apparently, haven't
Yeah, the Andromeda galaxy's moved a million kilometers
I mean,
faster towards us since we had this conversation.
So the reason I'm not concerned for the planet, I'm not saying we shouldn't stop being a bunch of filthy bastards shitting in our own nest.
We
I'm not
definitely
saying
need to
that
do better,
by
yeah.
any stretch of the imagination.
Mm.
But the reason I'm not concerned about these things is because we chose to be here.
Mm.
We're bigger than just this meat sack.
Mm.
This is the only thing that makes this meat sack work is the spark of spirit,
Mm.
and the spark of spirit
Mm.
is universal, infinite, never ending, eternal, immortal. And I know that I wasn't this meat sack in a past life.
That's right.
Or a future life.
Mm.
I mean, I don't really want to die, but if I get run over by a bus tomorrow, it'll be fine. It's interesting perspective that I really hold. And the more I delve into spirituality and the more I delve into the now, and by no means do I not ever get triggered or get the shits.
Yeah.
I got the shits today over something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was being a victim today.
Yeah.
Today, people, I was being a victim.
Yeah.
I was an idiot.
Yeah.
I managed to back off, shut up, and give Chris a hug and say, I'm sorry about being a dickhead.
And that's
so I'm not trying to say I'm fantastic here. But all I'm trying to say is the more I dig into this esoteric work to the mystical, the more I realize that there's more to it than just this. And if we want to make it all about planet Earth, make it all about our children, make it all about everything else, just stop it and be the best version of you that you can possibly be.
Mate, I can't think of a better way to end it.
I mean, what?
Yeah, we haven't ended anything. Did we even start anything?
It's a good pause point here for our conversation.
Yeah, because I mean, look, the thing about us, mate, is that we keep going. We're going to come back around, right? And despite the fact that you had a little bit of a slip today, and I appreciate you being honest about that.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a slip yesterday, if we're going to be honest, right? I had a bit of a wig out yesterday over something stupid. We all do. It's about, as you say, all you can do, man, is just be a little bit better than you were yesterday. If you can,
or just go through that cycle again.
Yeah.
But each cycle, and I'm spinning my hand around here for those listening and going higher each time. Each cycle, you come up a little higher frequency. You're evolving a little bit more. You're learning a bit more. You're becoming a better person each time.
I think so.
It's not about not being triggered. It's about what you do when you do get triggered.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
not about not being a dickhead. It's about being human.
Yeah, it's about You're going to be a dickhead. You're going to be stupid. How do you deal with that situation? Do you allow yourself to descend back down the ladder, right, to your baser instincts, or do you actually look at it from a higher perspective?
And you know the difference between good and evil, shall I say?
Well, the thing is, if
you know the difference because you know it in your heart.
That's right.
And you stop and you pause and you put your hand on your heart and you say, "What's the best thing?
The best
that
version
I can do right now?"
Exactly. That's the 3 to 5 seconds, man.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. It's just 3 to 5 seconds. Take a few seconds, have a think about what you're doing, why you're doing it. Is it worth you doing it? Does it serve you? Right. And it never ends, does it, mate? You know what I mean? It never ends. I had a bit of a thought on the way out here this afternoon. Sitting on the edge of gun, however many years ago that was, feet dangling off the edge, having
That was a good podcast.
discussion about, I don't even, we were talking about all sorts of stuff, referred injury or whatever. I can't remember what we talked about.
Yeah, it was a good one.
However, it's way back in the back catalogue. However,
Mm.
if you think about, I was just sort of thinking about where I've come since then and where I've seen you come since then. And it's like all we can do is just be better than we were yesterday, man. You know, like,
yeah.
And you're gonna fall, but what are you going to do about it when you do? I think there's no, and I think if you can have some basic honesty and morality and which is the basis of integrity, in try to do that in everything you do, then you should be okay. And we are privileged. We are privileged to sit here and be able to have these discussions. And, I'm very thankful for our time tonight. I'm thankful for you tonight. I'm thankful for the listeners. I think it's all these things we are very, very lucky to be a part of, and to have these conversations, right? And the thing is, too, this whole digital thing that we're doing, let's say that we don't blow ourselves up or rocks don't come from the sky.
Sure.
Our grandchildren's children's children, technically, somewhere on the internet, they'll be able to find this conversation, right?
That's true.
What did Martin and Triffin think when they were in 2023, right? And our thoughts have evolved as well. I'm sure if we go back and listen to the first one that we did, which I'm not even sure what number it is.
No.
I bet you two things, right? I bet you on one hand, our thoughts are still very, very similar. However, through the evolvement and experience and trying to practice what we preach, there's an evolvement of ideas. Yeah. Well, mate, have you got any other little? I know I said I'd shut up and then I didn't. However, do you got anything to finish on, mate? Are you okay?
I just think that what we're talking about tonight, really is a dimensional cycle.
Yeah, you got to be aware that this is right now you're in the third dimension.
And I'm calling these things an ascension matrix.
Which we will get to one day.
Yeah, I think as humankind, we are cycling ever upward. As we cycle around, we're cycling ever upward. And I think I do agree with you about cataclysmic disasters and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
I think each cycle of ascension, which I'd like to talk about next time.
Yes,
each cycle of ascension is concluded with some kind of catastrophic type event. Atlantis, Lemuria, the flood.
The countless flood myths. So that
Exactly.
they may not be one and the same. There could be multiple floods that have happened multiple times over hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, and I think so. I don't think the planet's going to explode. I don't think.
Not today, anyway.
I don't think we're going to destroy the planet, because I don't think we're powerful enough to do that. And I don't think that's the grand plan either. What I do think is happening is that Mother Earth is going to make a shift.
Yes.
A dimensional shift. And in that dimensional shift, there will be a split between those who choose a higher path and those who choose to remain on a lower path. And that's why, as I say, I believe that free choice is the cusp of this cycle.
Understanding that you are the creator.
Yeah.
And then surrendering to that creation.
Yeah. And perhaps, let's see if we can have some of the listeners comment as to whether they'd like to know more about that.
I'm sure they would. They enjoyed the last one.
Yeah.
And look, this has been another very interesting conversation, mate. I always love sitting down with you. It's we always say we've got to make more time, and this year we do mean we need to make more time, because I do want to get to the Ascension Matrix. The problem is that we can get into the nuance of things. Because the thing is, people ask these questions, don't they, man? You know what I mean? It's like when you're exploring them in your own mind, I expect you to question me, and you expect me to question you, so we can at least give a nuanced perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, mate, another esoteric conversation in the bag.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother. Talk soon, eh? Cheers.
Yeah.
Just want to go again?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Go again.
All right. I know you been here before. No surprises, settle the score. I know the darkness deep inside, reckless rage, poison pride. I know the anger, I know the pain, and I know the fear we do not name. And the one who comes to find me when my time is through, I know you, I know you. Wow. I know you. Better.